April 11, 2023. This is the 2000 tick chart of the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the thinkorswim platform. This is what I saw today. This is the chart. It was very, very choppy. You can see this yellow line is a 21 EMA, and things are just kind of chopping back and forth. It was like, I don't know, prices were going all over the place, but at the same time, it was going nowhere. Because you can look at the high, which was 41.51, and the low, which is about 41.28. So it looked like it only moved about 32 points, which isn't that much. Actually, it's less than 31 points. It's actually 20, 22, 23 points. So this is how I drew up the charts today. I just saw, I guess, a big trading range and then a big channel and then multiple trading ranges. I only took one trade today. There are a couple of trades, probably 3 trades that I wish I took, but in real time, I wasn't sure just because in the middle of the real time price action, I don't know, I didn't quite believe things just because in a 25 day or 25 point trading range, things are just kind of turning on a dime really quickly. And to try to get 1 or 2 point profit, it's strangely asking a lot from the market on something like today. So I just drew these bars down here for myself, but it just kind of shows you like this is 1 hour, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. And you can see, things are really slowing down. Volume was pretty low, similar to yesterday, except today was just kind of sporadic and choppy. Now, I do know tomorrow the inflation numbers are going to come out in the pre-market, as well as Thursday, the core producer price index and unemployment claims, and then Friday, core retail sales, etc. Those will all come out in the next 3 days. So I think we might see a little more price action, more volume then. So I'm going to go into my trades. You can just go down to the description below. You don't have to watch this whole video, just see where the timestamps are. In the beginning, I had this as a trading range. I just saw this trading range. Then I saw the bigger one form from the high and the low in the pre-market. So prices kind of made 2 legs up, came back down. Now, and a bigger time frame, you could say there's 2 legs up and then there's a correction. And what I did see as the first potential setup, which I actually took pretty shortly after the open, was 2 big legs. But on this one, I counted this as a new high. I saw a first entry long, then I saw a second entry long. And I took this trade because it's kind of like a second entry long and a failed breakout of this trading range, which is confirmed now. Kind of like it looked like its prices are moving back and forth. And there's enough room to the EMA as well as potentially to the other side of the trading range. Excuse me. Since things were pretty choppy, these are all about 2 candles big. 2 points. Let me go back. All these candles are about 2 points large. So instead of trying to go for a big win, I just went for a 1 point scalp and I was able to get it. And I got I actually didn't have any runners today. I just decided on this one trade I was going to take the entire thing off just because I just didn't want to, risk anything. So this is my one and only trade. Then prices continue moving. I saw a potential second entry short here. There's a new low, double bottom, first entry short, breaks up above, makes a second entry short. But I didn't like the signal bar. It's also bouncing off the midline of this trading range. So it could come back down, which, or it could continue back up because this could be considered a failed breakout. So at the time, I didn't really know which way it was going to go. So I left it alone. I said, I want to see a lower high. Then prices move and you do get a lower high right here. Now, I didn't like this lower high that much because it does confirm the second entry short here. And the second bar after this, so you want to know if this is going to move up next, on the next bar, move up or down to confirm the lower high. It does come back down, but it doesn't break below the bottom here. So this is the trading range. And you could argue maybe the trading range is slightly lower, maybe down to here. But I wasn't sure at the time, so I just didn't like how this set up. Maybe if it closed 1 tick below, I feel more confident. But since it didn't, I just thought, well, the EMA might be coming into play, might be pushing this down, but for the most part, it's just kind of cutting through all the bars. So I didn't want to take that trade. Looks like it would have been good enough just for a quick scalp, a 1 point scalp. Getting anything more than 1 point unless it's a really pristine setup, is kind of risky today, as I soon found out. Well, as I just watched and found out. I did see a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, but excuse me. I also saw this as a visual first entry short and a visual second entry short because it's only one tick below this guy, so you can group this together. So I did see this as a visual second entry short, but the signal bar here is kind of neutral, a little so-so. It's kind of right here at the midline of this trading range if you extend it out. So it's breaking above, but it also closed above. So I wasn't sure, so I just left it alone. But I did see a potential setup, and it turns out it would have worked out. Perhaps in the future, if I see many more of these, I'll, feel, excuse me, I'll feel more confident. I know I would have taken the trade if this actually closed a little bit more bearish, kind of like down here, but it didn't. So I had to just leave it alone. Price is chopped around. Now it's kind of meeting this bottom of this larger trading range, which is formed from the high and lows of pre-market. It breaks through. I'm wondering if it's going to have a fail breakout. Keeps going down. Disregard this. I'll just go ahead and delete it. That was just my 1 hour marker. And it's kind of moving around again. It's getting consolidated, getting congested. There's not a clean second entry or high probability second entry that I could find. EMA is kind of reacting, but it's still not being respected all that much. Prices are holding above it, but it's still, taking chances and breaking through. Then I finally get to here. I see a new high, first entry long, and I see a second entry long, and I consider this a failed second entry long. But the signal bar here, it looks a little too neutral for me, and it's also above the EMA. I'd rather have this. Excuse me, I'd rather have this form below the EMA than I know prices are coming back down. Also, right now, overall prices are just kind of staying in this larger trading range. So whether it goes up or down is anybody's guess, at least for me. So I didn't take this trade. I did see it as a setup, but the trigger bar here also closed below the EMA. So if I was going to take an entry, I probably would have put it right one tick below here. If I saw this be a little bit stronger and try to write it down, but this just wasn't quite good enough for me, in my opinion. So I just, again, left it alone. A lot of trades I kind of skipped over, if they could even be considered valid trades. And then it comes back up. I end up drawing this channel because I saw 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, and then I put this guy up here, wondering if it's going to make a climb all the way back to the top. Prices continue moving. I draw this smaller intermediate channel, and it does make a touch here. So now I'm more confident that this is a valid trend channel. So now I'm wondering if it's going to come back down, cut through the EMA, although things are turning bullish now. There's the first leg up. And then I see a second entry long here. So there's a new high, first entry long, second entry long. This guy closed above the EMA. I thought it was a possible trade because it's a good signal bar and made 2 measured legs down, which are these 2 yellow arrows. And I didn't have this at the time, but I did know it kind of made a triple test. And I saw all that, but I wasn't 100% sure just because all the price action previously had been a little confusing, a little noisy for me today. So unfortunately, this turns out to be the trade I should have taken because I would have entered 1 tick above, enough room to get back to the top of this trading range. And if I was more ambitious, I would have put it up here, but it didn't matter because I didn't take that trade. Then I also saw, okay, it's coming up, it's touching the top of this trading range. I didn't have this, I was thinking potentially it's a failed second entry long, but I wasn't sure at the time because this is a pretty strong candle. Then when you watch the next candle, this is a pretty strong candle down. Now this is the trigger bar, and it closed below the EMA, but it barely closed below the EMA. So here's the EMA, this yellow line. So it didn't really strongly push through, right? There is enough room to make it back down to the bottom of this trading range for at least 1 point, and then potentially all the way down here. But I just didn't like the way this formed. So I thought, well, I will probably just sit back and see if there is a lower high to help confirm. Unfortunately, it doesn't give you that chance. It comes flashing all the way down. I certainly am not going to take a trade here now because this is where the ascending trend line is. Take a trade to be like right here, which is really risky. It sounds like you're buying at the low. Flashes through, it bounces around, it comes back into this trading range, hits the top, And then I see this. I see a new low. I group this together. I see a first entry short right here, one tick, second entry short. But I wasn't sure if this is a true second entry short because this could actually be on a different, depending on your chart. Maybe this is actually, this candle might have collected the shot, the move down here, and this might not have existed. So this could actually be a first entry short. But I also saw potentially it is a fail breakout of this trading range. And at the time when I was trading, I looked at the average true range of the candles, and they're really, really small, like below 2 points to, so even hunting for 1 point scalp profit was a little bit ambitious. Not ambitious, but it seems like it was really hard today just because prices were just chopping up and down in really small candles. So I saw this, but I decided not to take the trade. And if you look here, depending on if I was going after 1 point or even more than 1 point, I probably would have gotten stopped out. So it's kind of okay that I didn't take that trade. Of course, this is after the fact. But in real time, I didn't feel compelled to take that trade. Now this has an overshoot. It didn't make it to the other side, but it is kind of confirming this bottom support. And this has only had 2 touches. I really wanted to see a third touch to be super certain, but at least I know this is a good support that I was working off of. I'm just going to delete that guy. Prices continue moving, chopping. They're moving up. It's here. It's just making to the midline, but they're having trouble breaking through because this overshoot's having trouble breaking through, as well as this consolidation. This congestion, excuse me, not consolidation. I see one leg down, 2 legs down, and I see a new high. Now this line is coming into play now. That is the top of the pre-market. So that's from this larger trading range. And I saw it got rejected. It made one move down, pulled back, made a second move down. I'm thinking here, I was ready to take this trade, but I kind of got skittish and kind of cowered out because it's a pretty good signal bar. It's a pretty good signal bar. EMA is holding, and there just seems to be enough room because here's 41.4750 all the way up to 49. So that's enough to get like a 1 point scalp, 6 ticks at least. So I thought about it, and I also thought, well, maybe it's bouncing off of here. All that coming together, yet I still didn't take the trade just because today I just didn't feel quite in tune. I was still trying to decipher, get the feel of the market. Turns out it would have worked. And depending on how set it up, I might have gotten a runner, but I don't think I would have because my stop would have likely been 1 tick here. So I probably would have got my core profit, and then my runner would have got stopped out on this candle. So that's okay. Prices come up. They kind of consolidate up here. I didn't draw this at the time. This is the trading range. I didn't draw this because I didn't quite believe it was there at the time. But then I do see a new high, first entry long, second entry long, and I'm thinking it could be a second entry long failure that comes down to here, or it could truly be a second entry long that moves up. So I labeled this after the fact when I did see it, but knowing that there's a possibility of a second entry long going all the way up to here and possibly breaking through, or at least making to the midline, or a failed second entry long, that made me unsure which way I was going to go, so I left it alone. But I did just kind of mark it for myself just so I would, see it. And I didn't really like the signal bar. And I said, well, if this is whatever it is, if it's going to be a second entry, failed second entry long, look for a higher low. It goes down, and then it truly does kind of just fail. It goes first entry long, second entry long, and it fails. Then I thought, okay, on a bigger visual, I could say this is a first entry long on this leg where this yellow arrow is, one leg, and then the second leg. Maybe this is going to be a second entry long. And at this point, when this closed, I was thinking there's probably a support coming across here. And in my mind, I just put a line up here. So this is drawn after the fact because in real time, I don't have time to draw that. And it looks like it's a visual second entry long. It would have worked, but it's making me wonder because it's also the EMA is coming right into it. So I just didn't like that the EMA was getting that close, and it's potentially breaking out of this, so it could break back in to test this high. So all those coming into mind. This wasn't the best candle. This what didn't give me much confidence afterwards. This second trigger bar, I guess this is the first trigger bar, just the next candle after the trigger bar, didn't give me much confidence either because this is all you're seeing in real time, and this looks very neutral. Could it go down? Possibly. Could it go up? Possibly. But knowing all those, taking all those into consideration, just said, you know what? Just sit out. Don't do anything. Prices shot up. It's trying to test the high. It finally does. It makes a triple top, and I'm just watching carefully because technically there's a new low here, first entry short, just barely. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a second entry short. It's coming up and flashes through, and I'm thinking there's potentially a second entry short. And I think this is possibly a really decent trade. So I did see is a good signal bar. It's above the EMA. It's moving back into this channel. It moved back into this channel. And I'm thinking it could either flash up or down. And by the characteristic of this, I'm thinking like this larger trading range might be in play. It's breaking out, coming in. Maybe it's going to make another move down. So at the time, if I was thinking I should be aggressive, just take a short one tick below this guy. But again, this is kind of late in the day now, and I was only successful on one trade, my one and only trade. And I thought, I don't want to give back anything. I've just been watching a lot of crazy noise today. I just didn't want to potentially give back any profit. So I kind of, in the back of my mind, subconsciously decided I wasn't going to take any more trades, but I was very, very interested to see what would happen here. Turns out it would have worked because there's enough room to the EMA, but when it stopped here, after this candle finished, I said, this is a very strong bear candle. It opened, it never moved higher, and it closed. But it closed right on the EMA, and it closed right on the top of this trading range on the outside. So if I didn't take an entry here, I certainly was curious and very hesitant to take one entry below this guy because, who knows if it's going to bounce and go back up. And plus the EMA might actually be a support. Turns out it would have worked. And depending if you had the stop, if you might have gotten stopped out on your runner. Then I do see a lower high here. I saw a lower high, so this is a potential, like the universe is telling you you have a second chance to enter right here because you have first entry short, second entry short, or if you look at a bigger visual, first entry short, instead of a lower high, you could consider this a second entry short. But I didn't like the looks of this signal bar because if you look at this candle, it looks like it opens here. It was bought up by some buyers, then it got pushed down really, really hard. Sellers are coming in. It doesn't break below this candle. As soon as it gets to here, right before it closes, all these buyers came up and pushed it to close right here, right above the EMA. So seeing that makes me wonder what is really going on. Is it going to make another push up potentially, or is it a true lower high? Had this candle actually closed lower, then I would know the sellers are in control, and the next candle could potentially breach this low and come down to touch the bottom of this trading range. But since it closed up here at the last, I wouldn't say minute, but at the very end of the 2000 ticks, it came back and closed here. That just gave me pause, and I said, whoa, whoa. It's a possible trade if I'm very aggressive, maybe earlier in the day where there's still more time because there's only 30 minutes left. I might have considered taking this trade, but seeing that reaction just follow the first instinct of you took one trade, you're profitable, leave it alone. And especially when this next candle prints, it fails to break below this guy. So if I was in the trade and I took it one candle below, I would be a little worried because it did close below the EMA. I'm not really sure if it's coming back in now, but since I wasn't in the trade, I didn't have to worry about that. But it's just kind of extra psychological warfare the market seems to be playing on everyone today. And prices continue moving down. It's getting close to the end of the day. I don't see any more setups that I would take just because it's getting pretty much into the close of the day. So overall, let me get rid of this guy. This is, in case you didn't know, this is my 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock 1 hour time frame just to see how many candles are in here. And I had a bunch of these drawn earlier, and it just tells me that today is kind of a slow, low volume day, even though it was choppy. So the market was going all over the place, but yet not going anywhere. So it's a kind of a tricky, challenging day today, even though, there's a lot of swings. It's easy to say, oh, I would have just bought down here, sold up here, and bought down here. But in order to do that, you have to have, or for me at least, I have to see a clean setup to feel confident on. And to be honest, in hindsight, I think this setup here, this one here, and this one were potentially, decent setups to have taken, and probably this guy. And the only one I took was this one because that was just due to my experience level not being very high. Just kind of decided to sit back and just be more careful today. So hopefully that was helpful.